Have you ever heard the word perseverance? Has anyone ever described you as being persistent or having perseverance? If so, that means that you keep trying and never give up. When used for good, it is a great quality. A person exhibiting perseverance keeps trying even when they are tired, when there's no end in sight, when there's no one able to help them, even if they've previously failed. God loves for us to persevere with the things He wants us to do. In Galatians 6:9, Paul encourages us with these words, "Let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary." Perseverance is a quality that a missionary named Gladys Aylward definitely exhibited. This is a picture of Gladys Aylward. She was born in the early 1900s in London, England. Gladys always struggled in school. She had a great memory and could repeat anything she heard, but could never grasp reading. Her fellow classmates teased her and called her dumb. It turned out it was because she had poor vision and the words were fuzzy on the page. In those days, glasses were rare and very expensive, so her family could not afford to get any for her. Gladys dropped out of school in 5th grade and began to work as a housemaid. In her late teens, Gladys learned about the millions of people in China who had never heard the gospel. She knew in her heart that God wanted her to go to China. She applied to become a missionary with China Inland Missions, but was rejected because she could not pass the test she had to take. She was told she would never be able to learn Chinese and that she should just stop trying. But Gladys Aylward said, "If God has called you to China or any other place, and you are sure in your own heart, let nothing deter you. Remember, it is God who has called you, and it is the same as when He called Moses or Samuel." Thankfully, she never gave up. She persevered. Gladys heard of a widow in China who wanted help in her ministry. The widow told her she would love her to come. She would just have to pay her way over there. Since Gladys's family was very poor, it took her 2 years to raise the money for a one-way ticket on a train to China. In 1932, she said goodbye to her family and began the journey. It began as an easy trip through Europe, but traveling through Russia was a different story. Russia was at war, and the train lines would shut down for weeks at a time. The longer the trip went, the fewer people that were on the trains. None of them spoke English, so she must have been very lonely. At one point, she had to walk 20 miles across the freezing Siberian countryside to get to the next train station, and she was all alone. During this trip, she had her money and belongings stolen, and she even had her passport taken. But God sent many people along the way to help her. She was able to escape Russia and get on a ship bound for Japan and then on to China. Finally, after a 2-day ride on a donkey, she got to her new home. The widow, named Mrs. Lawson, put her right to work. They fixed up an inn at the crossroads for travelers to rest for the night. They soon became famous in the area, not only for their good provisions, but because of their gift of great storytelling. Many people came from far and wide to hear Bible stories and learn the gospel message. After only 1 year, Mrs. Lawson died, and this left Gladys alone. She was able to continue the ministry until war came to her area. It soon became too dangerous to live there, so she fled to the mountains. She lived in caves for over 3 years, taking in many, many children who had become orphans because of the war. Finally, it became too dangerous to live in the caves, so she took over 100 children and they traveled to a faraway orphanage. It took them 27 days, and they went through many difficult times. But with God's help, Gladys was able to get all of them there safely. Sadly, she had to leave China, but eventually settled in Taiwan and continued serving there for the remainder of her life. Gladys said she always knew that even if she wasn't the best choice, God used her because she was willing. She was a true example of perseverance. What are some ways that you can show perseverance in your life? At this time, that may be in your schoolwork, doing chores, at a hobby you enjoy, or a skill you are trying to master. Remember that if you ask God, He will help you persevere in all the things that He wants for your life.